Hello everyone! How are you doing? I hope you're doing well. In the last video, we covered some web and API fundamentals. We learned how clients and servers communicate, explored the HTTP protocol, discussed the most common HTTP methods, and covered several other essential concepts. Now it's time to put that knowledge into practice. In today's video, we'll dive into FastAPI. You'll learn how FastAPI works, how to create your first FastAPI application, and how to build your very first endpoint. So, without further ado, let's get started. So first, we have the sample code. We simply imported the FastAPI class from the FastAPI framework and created an application instance from it. As we saw in the first video, to start the server, we execute the following command: Uvicorn main:\app -- reload. After that, the server starts running on this address. Let's copy it and open it in the browser. As you can see, we get a not found response. It's telling us that the requested resource could not be found. To understand why this happened, it's simply because we haven't created any endpoints yet. Since no routes are defined, FastAPI doesn't know how to handle a request to the route path. To create our first route, we'll use the app.getDecorator. Inside it, we'll specify /, which represents the route path, and then define a route function that simply returns a hello world string. Now if we refresh the page, you'll see the hello world message. Great, let's create another endpoint. This time, we'll use app.get/home to create a route for /home. We'll define a function called home, and it will return a simple Python dictionary containing a message that says hello FastAPI. Now, if we visit the route path, we'll see hello world. But if we navigate to /home, we'll receive the dictionary containing the message hello FastAPI. There is also an important thing to notice. Our function returns a Python dictionary, but the response displayed in the browser is not a Python dictionary. Instead, it's JSON. FastAPI automatically converts Python dictionaries into JSON responses, so we don't have to perform the conversion ourselves. Now let's talk about the Swagger documentation, which we mentioned in the previous video. If we go to /docs, FastAPI automatically generates interactive API documentation for us. We don't have to write anything manually. As you can see, it lists the two endpoints we just created, the root endpoint and the /home endpoint. But this page is more than just documentation. It's also a testing tool that allows us to test our API directly from the browser. For example, if we open the root endpoint, click Try It Out, and then click Execute, we'll immediately see the result of our request. Let's briefly explain what we can see here. First, we have the request information, such as the request URL and the equivalent curl command that we can run in a terminal or command prompt. Then we have the response details, including the HTTP status code. In this case, it's 200 OK, which means the request was successful. We can also see the response body, which contains hello world, and the response headers, which provide additional information about the response, such as the content type. Notice that the content type is application/JSON. Even though our function returned a Python object, FastAPI automatically serialized it into JSON before sending it back to the client. We can do the same thing with the /home endpoint. Click Try It Out, execute the request, and you'll see the JSON response containing the message, hello FastAPI. FastAPI also provides another automatically generated documentation page called ReDoc. You can access it by navigating to /ReDoc. Unlike Swagger UI, which is designed for interactive testing, ReDoc focuses on presenting the API documentation in a clean, well-organized, and easy-to-read format. It's especially useful for developers who want to understand the API, explore its available endpoints, review request and response formats, and learn how to integrate with the API. While ReDoc doesn't provide the same interactive testing experience as Swagger UI, many teams prefer it because of its polished layout and excellent readability. So FastAPI gives us both options out of the box: Swagger UI for testing and interacting with our API, and ReDoc for clean, professional API documentation. So that's it. As I mentioned earlier, FastAPI automatically converts Python data types into JSON responses. To see this in action, let's create another route called /colors. This time, instead of returning a dictionary, we'll return a simple Python list containing a few colors. Now let's navigate to this route in the browser. As you can see, the response looks like a Python list. However, it's actually not a Python list. It's a JSON array. FastAPI automatically converted our Python list into JSON before sending it back to the client. Let's try another example. Instead of returning a Python list, we'll return a Python tuple. Now, if we refresh the page, you'll notice that the response is still a JSON array. Even though we returned a tuple in Python, FastAPI automatically converted it into JSON. We can do the same thing with a Python set. Let's change our return value from a tuple to a set containing the same colors. After refreshing the page, you'll see that FastAPI still returns a JSON array. In other words, regardless of whether we return a Python list, tuple, or set, FastAPI automatically serializes the data into JSON before sending the response. The same thing can be observed in the Swagger documentation. If we execute any of these endpoints, you'll notice that the content type response header is always application/JSON, confirming that the response sent by FastAPI is JSON. And that's it. Now that we know how to create endpoints, let's take a closer look at what actually happens behind the scenes. You might be wondering, how does FastAPI know which function to execute when a request arrives? And how does it handle the entire request and response process? So here is a simplified process of what happens from sending a request until getting a response. Whenever a client sends an HTTP request, the request doesn't go directly to one of your Python functions. There are several components involved before your code is executed. The first component is Uvicorn. Uvicorn is an ASGI web server. You can think of it as the program responsible for listening for incoming HTTP requests on a specific port. Whenever a request arrives, Uvicorn receives it and passes it to our FastAPI application. Uvicorn is not FastAPI itself. It is the web server that listens for incoming requests and forwards them to FastAPI. Once FastAPI receives the request, it first examines two pieces of information, the HTTP method and the URL path. For example, if the client sends a GET request to /home, FastAPI identifies the method as GET and the path as /home. The combination of an HTTP method and a URL path is called an endpoint. For example, get/API/menu. Before FastAPI can execute any code, it needs to identify which endpoint the client is requesting. After identifying the endpoint, FastAPI asks its router to find the matching route and know the function to execute. For example, here the method is get and the URL is /home, so the router knows that it needs to execute this function, home. So FastAPI executes the home function. When that function finishes, it usually returns a normal Python object, in this case, a dictionary. FastAPI then automatically converts that Python dictionary into JSON, creates a complete HTTP response by adding the appropriate status code and HTTP headers, and finally gives that response back to Uvicorn. Uvicorn sends the response across the network to the client, where it is displayed by the browser, Swagger UI, Postman, or any other application that made the request. So that's it for this video. In the next video, we'll see how to handle other HTTP methods in FastAPI, and we'll also learn how to return HTML responses from our FastAPI application.